Perfect. Okay, so we are recording. Hi, hello. Okay, so like I said, this Zoom is named Create Your Narrative for a specific reason. Something that has really been my focal point is finding or perfecting, I should say, my story and my narrative, because everyone has a story, right? We all started for different reasons. We all continue on for different reasons. We all come from different backgrounds. We have different and unique stories. To me, I think that's the most beautiful part of network marketing. We don't, especially for our business, aren't prejudiced against a story, right? We love unique stories. We love how everybody comes from different backgrounds, from different situations, and we absolutely love that, because that's what makes our business and team and tribe so unique, because we encompass it all, you guys. I mean, college students, stay-at-home moms, working moms, single moms, people working 9 to 5s, people who are just staying at home. It's like we're all across the board so amazing, and we blend so well together because we inspire one another on the daily in our chats and through our posts. But something that I felt could get so easily left in the background is our story, is our absolute reason why we started this business. So let me break it down. So, and a lot of the times, let me know if this isn't making sense, because in my mind, like, it makes sense. When I was talking to Heidi, I was like, does this make sense to you? Is it just me? Like, a lot of the times it makes sense in my brain. So, and we're dealing with pregnancy brain right now. So just let me know if this makes sense for you guys. So what I mean by that is why the narrative and why our story gets kind of left behind in our back pocket as we go on in this business is because we kind of forget the true meaning of why we started. So let's say for me, I started because I really hadn't taken a vitamin in over 6 years. I had just gotten engaged. I was in constant daily pain. My health was deteriorating because I have such terrible gut issues. I've suffered for years with gut issues. And I was fed up. And I came from a different network marketing company. And that is also part of the reason why, obviously, I joined this business, is because I needed to find something that really made me whole again. Because I had been in the previous gig for a few years. It was a vehicle that led me here, and I'm so grateful for it. But now this is my vehicle to take me to my purpose and my passion. But the true reason why I started was because of my health needs and my health goals. And obviously I wanted to help and impact and share my story to help others that were dealing with similar issues that I was in terms of health, or lack of health, really. So that is my story of kind of why I really got started. But a lot of the times we just put bullet points in a story, let's say, like in an opportunity story or an opportunity post or even a product story. And for instance, for myself, I could say, like, hadn't taken a vitamin, needed help with my gut health, got engaged, wanted to feel my best. And those are just bullet points, right? That's not really going to do much. That's not going to be like, ooh, so inspiring, or, ooh, let me know more. Let me hear more. Let me ask her what is this, right? When we just do bullet points, and you guys, I'm exaggerating. I know we don't speak in like short phrases, or I hope we don't speak in like short phrases and just strict bullet points when we are posting and are doing opportunity stories. But this is like, I'm just kind of exaggerating it to show what I mean by you need to dig deep. You need to get into that vulnerable place, because if you guys are being a part of the book club, Dare to Lead is the book. And if you haven't started reading it yet, totally fine. But if you have I believe it's not the intro, it's the section 1 of it. She talks about vulnerability and how we oftentimes build up an armor and build up it's a strong armor, you guys, against vulnerability, feelings, and emotion, because sometimes those vulnerabilities, they hurt. As I dig deeper into, well, why was my health so terrible? Why do I have gut issues? Why was I so obsessed and focused on, what food I was intaking? I needed to, lack of nutrition. My body wasn't absorbing nutrients properly. Well, if I really dig deeper into that, if I take that armor away, and that armor was up when I even joined because it's so mentally blocked out of my head, it's because I had an eating disorder in the past and I dealt with that. And by dealing with that, I didn't want to have to think about that. That kind of stings still, because it's so personal. It's a personal level that, I don't need to share that with anybody. Nobody needs to know that. But that, when I took away that armor, when I took away that mental and emotional block, that is the vulnerable place of truly why I started. That is the core aspect of, well, this is where it all stemmed from. And that is why, if you dig deep, that's why I started. I chose this company for a specific reason because of the products. They hold so true to what they say, and they actually do impact lives and work and change your health, and, all around life. So by taking a moment and just realizing, like, yeah, I built up an armor. I didn't think I had an armor, right? Like, when you think of like armor, you think of like cold-heartedness, hatred, like jaded, like that's not me. But when you really look deep down, you're like, oh wow, like no, I did build an armor up that because I didn't want to have to think about that. I didn't want to have to feel those feelings again. I didn't want to have to feel vulnerable and that sting again. But now, you guys, I talk openly about it on social media. I talk openly because your story can impact others. Your story can help others. And that is what we're here to do. Now, I'm not saying go in like, the deep depths of your soul, find your biggest, darkest secret and blast it on social media. No, I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is allow yourself to feel the vulnerability, because when you do feel vulnerability, your story becomes so better. Like it gets portrayed to others so much better, so crystal clear, because they're like, oh, that's why she does this. This is why she hustles hard. This is why she does this every single day. She shows up, she's consistent. For instance, even if you started on the products for weight loss, you don't just come on and say, lost 40 pounds, come try my product, right? You shouldn't, because in our stories, we're never the hero of our stories, right? We are not our own hero, because a hero kind of just happens to come upon success, happens to come upon victory. We didn't just happen to come upon it, right? Maybe some of you did. Maybe some of you just stumbled upon, healings and, success and victories. And that's amazing. Share that. But a lot of the times we've worked hard, right? We've worked through the failures. We've dragged ourselves through the mud. It's been rough. It's been storms. It's been a roller coaster. It's been hills and mountains. And you know what? Be proud of that. Don't, I can't think of the word. And like I said, pregnancy brain. Don't disregard that struggle and those efforts and that fight, because you deserve to share that. Don't be afraid or embarrassed that you had to take that time, or it took you X amount of months, X amount of years even, to make it to where you are, because that is what helped you get there. That is what helped you breed success. So you need to embrace the struggle, embrace the storms, because after every storm there will be that rainbow, right? But you have to accept that storm's going to happen. My favorite person in this entire world is Les Brown. Love him. If you don't listen to him, watch or listen to a video podcast. He's an amazing speaker. He constantly says, life will knock you between the eyes time and time again, but you have to continue to get back up. So you have to continue to fight through that struggle and obstacles and anything that life throws at you in order to get you to where you are today, right? So why would you diminish that? Why are you hiding from that? Why are you putting up an armor from that struggle? Because look where you are now. You're not still there. And if you are, that's okay. You're getting there. You're moving on the right path. That's the beauty of why we're in this business, is because it allows us to have a trajectory path. we could literally set ourselves up. Our leadership literally sets us up for success in a trajectory path because we give you the tools of what you need, because it's worked for us. We know it can work for you if you just put it into your mind that it will. That's why we're so focused on self-development. That's why we're so focused on sharing who you are, being true to you, no one else. Share your story, because by doing these different steps, that's how it gets you to the better place. That's how you get on top, like you rise on top, right? That's how you overcome that storm. So by doing so, why would you diminish that struggle? Even if it was years in the making, why would you push that aside and act like that didn't happen? I think it makes you more brave. I think it makes you a more amazing person if you had to struggle hard, if you had to go through the trenches, if you had to dig your way through the mud, army crawl, get all dirty, but then you rose and then you're here and now you're ready to help people who were just like you. I think that's a beautiful story, and I don't want to ever diminish that. So a key, I guess I'm kind of doing like a little book club discussion forum prior to this Saturday right now. A key takeaway from just reading that little section of the book of break that armor down. Do not build an armor around your vulnerabilities. Do not allow yourself to not feel that emotion or that sting, kind of how I felt. Don't allow that to happen, because you need to feel those emotions and that pulling feeling and that tug of emotion on your heart in order to produce help, in order to impact people, in order to make a change into people's lives. You need to feel that tug. We can't just be void of emotions, right? We can't just be so cut off from what we've gone through and say, oh yeah, I've done that, but I'm here now, so let me help you. No, they're not there yet in order to realize, oh, well, I'm capable of that too. They're not in your place. This is why they're coming to you for help. This is why your posts are impacting them, because they're not yet in that place. They're getting there, but they need your help. They need you to be vulnerable with them because they're vulnerable. I can't tell you how many messages I get from potentials, even just not even like, teammates, promoter potentials, but customers. They are so open and vulnerable with me. I don't have a right to not be vulnerable back to them. I don't have that right to allow and read their messages and hear them get all, cracky in their voice in a voice text because they're holding back tears of their vulnerability. I don't have the right not to say, you know what? I feel that. I was there. I've had X, Y, and Z happen to me. I'm with you. Let's change it. I don't have that right to not feel that. I don't have the right to build an armor and say, I feel for you, but I'm in this place, so let me help you. No, we're not robots. We should never be so void of emotion and just so, I don't know if stoic's the right word, but so against feeling any emotion that we can't relate to them. So does that make sense? You have to relate in such a way. And I think we all do a wonderful job at that, but we have to make sure that in our posts or in our stories, even just in our stories, it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be a long post. Even in our stories, we should always be portraying our narrative in such a way that it really could connect to somebody. It could tug at somebody's heartstrings and allow you to say, you know what? I've been there. Let's go hand in hand on this together. Let's do this together. Because I was where you were, and now I'm here, but I was exactly where you were. So I'm going to help you step by step. We're going to take this one step at a time. We're going to do this together. It's not easy to be vulnerable. It's hard as hell. You can be, when the first post that I ever wrote about having an eating disorder on social media, I fainted. I was sweating. I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know. People, I had to have a reality check of myself. Like, people obviously knew Gia. Like, it wasn't no secret. And, back in the, a few years back, it wasn't a secret, but you just choose to not talk about it. And then I thought to myself, by choosing not to talk about it, but kind of knowing people knew, I kind of felt like a coward then. I was like, no, this is my story. I have a right to share my story. I went through it. I came out on the other side. I survived that. So I'm going to share it now. I'm going to tell them my story, my narrative, because I'm not going to have them sit and, not that people were talking about me, but back in the day when it was all going through it, I'm not going to let that narrative be the narrative that they think it is, because it's not. And I can absolutely assure that. So don't allow anybody to speak a narrative for you. So when people see that you have these amazing transformation pictures, right? Well, if people know you, they knew who you were back then. So maybe you looked tired, maybe you looked defeated, maybe you didn't lose the weight yet, you just looked dragged because you were just depressed or anxious or whatever it might be, but now you're only showing that glow up. Well, people who know you, and not saying that people's opinions matter, because everybody has an opinion, but I'm saying people who know you, they know that that's not the story, and you're allowing them to write the narrative for you. So what you need to do is turn that. You need to be in control of that narrative. So Heidi, I'm going to let you hop on, but basically just to summarize what my whole thing is: be in control of your narrative, share that narrative, knock down any armor that you might have built up, because the vulnerability and emotions are so key in this business, and you need to portray that. So whatever that might look like to you, if you didn't hop on Lindsay's Zoom last night, and if you haven't watched the recording, do so, because what she really goes into is how to create that caption, like a literal caption of a post, to be true to you and tie in your branding and your fives, because Linz is big on that branding and fives, and that is so key. But also be a little bit vulnerable with it. You know your narrative, you know where you came from, you know where you started and why you started, but now it's time to dig a little bit deeper and actually portray that. So I hope that made sense. Heidi, I'm going to let you hop on. Can you unmute yourself? Or do I? Oh, yep.
I think I'm unmuted.
Yep.
Okay. So I'm just going to go off of what Gia said, because we talked about this earlier. And so like Gia's story, obviously, and her narrative is different than mine. And all of your guys's are going to be different than ours. Can you guys hear me okay? Like I'm using headphones, so it's like sounds different to me when I'm talking. So anyways, but like, so her narrative is different than mine. Coming into this, for me, this was my first business. So like, I was like scared in the fact that I'm just like jumping into something myself, and I had no idea what to do. So I like kind of like started copying people, like, because I'm like watching the leaders and I'm watching everybody else and I see what's successful for them. So I started copying them, and things weren't happening for me. People thought I was like a robot, like Gia was talking about, like I'm not a robot. And so I kept like doing all the things everybody else was doing instead of like making it my own story, using my narrative, using my story in these daily IPAs that everybody is doing. So yes, we're going to show up and show our 3 steps and everything else, but how is it affecting us? How is it working in with your narrative, right? And same, like when I was listening to Gia talk, this carries over, not like just bringing people into the door. It's, you want to use this for your leaders that you're bringing, like you've already brought in, continuing, because you've already became a 4K leader, a 12K leader, and you're going to have these people, like you bring them in, and you're going to have to keep using your narrative towards the leadership side, right? Because people are going to start feeling the same way you were when you were like, they were getting to 4K. You've already been there, so you could kind of use your narrative to help your people that are already in this business too. Right? So when we're bringing people in with our narrative, we got to remember the people that we've already brought in. Does that make sense? Because like, that's where I'm kind of at right now, because I am in this vulnerable space. Like I grew so fast when I came back into this business that I kind of like felt like a deer in the headlights a little bit, being this new leader so fast when I wanted it so bad for so long. Now I'm here, and it was kind of like, okay, so what do I do now? Like I wanted it so bad and I got it and I worked for it. And it was kind of like my story, my narrative, like, what do I do now? And so I had to look back, like, how did I get here? Like, how was I feeling in these moments of growth? And how was I working in these moments of growth? Where was my mindset at? What daily task was I doing to get here? And now I can start helping other people go through this too in their own way, right? Like I can just be that light, that leadership, just so people can have that spark of inspiration. Because when we get vulnerable and we get into these spots where we're like talking about things that are uncomfortable, like that's where we start talking about getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. You've got to get into those uncomfortable spots, because if I go off like Brittany's story and I'm like, yes, this helped Brittany go through these stages of life, people are going to go start reaching out to Brittany like, oh, she's just a friend, she just knows her, so I'm going to go like ask her what's up because she knows, right? But if I start telling my story and how this helped me grow and how it helped me reach the goals that I wanted to reach and all of that, then people are going to start reaching out to me and asking how I went through that and how my story changed and what I did to help that story change. Does any of that make sense? I get nervous when I start talking, so then I get like tongue-tied and everything else. So, but that's a part of my story. Again, I'm sharing that with you guys. So I'm getting vulnerable in these spaces and putting myself up for these tasks and getting out in front of you guys so it can help me grow. The more I do this and the more I tell you guys about my story and getting vulnerable with you guys, it's going to put me to the next step. And I think that's what Gia is really trying to talk about. The more you talk about your story and dig deep within yourself and share your story, more people are going to relate to you and understand who you are and come to you. Does that, like, I'm just nervous. Gia, if you want to like hop back on, it's okay.
No, that's amazing. I absolutely love that. I think that's it's definitely like so now you took it and we're already in the business with you, right? This is no longer potential. I think it's so key to really focus in on that as well, because that's literally what our job is, right? We have these potentials, we have these customers, but then we have these promoters. We sign them. What do we do with them? We don't just say, again, you're starting here. I was there, but now I'm here. So good luck. No, you guys, like we, like Heidi said, we have to be vulnerable with you guys because we all started somewhere. Like I said, our stories will never be the same. They could be similar, but they will not be the same because we all experience things very differently, and that's what makes us beautiful and human. But at the same time, we can relate, right? That feel, felt, found. We use that method all the time with potentials, but it doesn't stop there. It doesn't stop until like human connection begins, right? Because that is human connection. We just need we are in the business of human connection. We can't, like I've said before, just be robots and cut ourselves off of all of this emotion because like, oh, I'm no longer in that place. No, sweetie, you were there. You were there. So why are you again diminishing that part of your story? And that diminishing that part of your story will not help a teammate, a customer. It's not going to, because they're not exactly where you are right now. That's why they've come to you for the help. That's why they've come to looking at you for the help that they want, because they see that you've struggled, you've overcame, and now you're in a place where you can literally offer help because you know what people are going through. So like I said, I don't have the, it's not like I only attract people of my exact same story, right? Or a very similar story. No. People acknowledge the struggle and the rise, right? So people acknowledge the struggle that you've been through. They also acknowledge the rise and the glow up that you've had, right? Because they could see it. They could see it on your face. They could see it on your whole being. You just glow differently. You talk differently. You you act differently in the best possible way when you overcome and when you rise. So when people come to you, it's because they need or they want to make that change as well. So when Heidi said, by saying, oh, I didn't experience this, but my friend Britt did, and she's sharing vulnerability stories of other people's stories. Well, that's kind of like saying, I'm a promoter for Lavelle, but I don't use any of the products, so I don't have any like transformation pictures or personal testimony, but my teammates do. So let me tell you about their testimony, their glow ups, their transformations. Well, what customer is going to want to buy from you, right? Because they're going to be like, well, why isn't she using the products? Why doesn't she have a personal story? Why can't I hear her narrative? So it's in a very similar way as when you bring a promoter on, they want to hear from their leader. They want to hear from their upline because they've come to you for a reason. They chose you for a reason. So it's now time, like I said before, we don't have a right to not be vulnerable when others are being vulnerable with us. That's not how human connection forms. That's not how any connection should be. It's a one-sided relationship, and relationships aren't one-sided, and it should never be one-sided. So you have to think of it like a marriage or a relationship. Like if you were putting your all in, and then your significant other was literally giving you nothing, would that make for a healthy relationship? Probably not. It wouldn't last very long, I don't think. But so now turn that into your business, your promoters, your customers. What do they deserve? Because I know what my customers and what my teammates deserve from me, and that they deserve my actual story, my testimony, and my narrative. And I'm not saying that like I have the perfect posts, the perfect stories up. No. It is a work in progress for me. Even 2 years in with Lavelle, I will always, and 5 years in network marketing itself, I will constantly be evolving. It's because my story is constantly changing. So now I'm in a new season of my life where I'm pregnant. I'm going to be a boy mom. So that brings a whole new narrative to my story that I'm kind of trying to just navigate through and evolve with. So as your story changes, your narrative also needs to change. The reason why you started will always stay the same because it's the reason why you started something, right? That's back in the day. But your narrative should always be flowing because your story is constantly changing. Your past is your past. So the reason why you started will stay the same. It'll stay stagnant. That it should be. Because you should always have a core reason of why you started, and that should be your core narrative, right? But now as your story changes and grows, as you're growing, you have to also change your narrative and make that fluid and have that flow with your journey and your path. Because people follow people. Why do you follow people on social media? You follow them because you want to follow what they're doing. You're following their story. Why do you follow celebrities or, why do you watch a TV show? It's because you're following along with the characters of that story because they're painting a narrative for you. So they're painting this picture and you don't want to just not finish it, not realize how it ends. So why would you kind of just cut your story, right before you make that rise, or cut your story before people realize like who you truly are inside? So for your, and I'm not saying that followers and likes and comments and messages are everything, but I'm saying we run our business on social media for a reason. We have to present it in a certain way. So always just keep in mind that as we grow, we also have to share a narrative that fits that growth. We can't just continue to you can't just continue to say the same thing over and over again in like just different ways and tweaking it just to say it differently, because that's going to get monotonous. That's going to get boring, right? Because you're not just the same person as you were yesterday. You're not the same person as you were last month. You are constantly changing. You are constantly growing, and you are constantly evolving in this story that is life, right? So you have to reflect that in your posts and in your social media. So the reason why I just continue to say create this narrative is because a narrative, you're the author of it. You are flowing. Your path is, you are growing. Your path is ever changing. But you should always be aiming for the same thing. Always aim to rise, always aim to grow, always aim to change, consistent change, daily action. Just continue to be on that trajectory path to where you want to see yourself, essentially. But you have to make your story flow with it. You can't just keep saying, that same old narrative of why you started, the core reason of why you started. That should always be there. But you also have to create that narrative and flow with it. So as Heidi was saying, and I will wrap this up, I promise. As Heidi was saying, when she came back, it kind of took her by surprise of how fast she grew. It was amazing, but she also had to take a step back and be like, oh, okay, this is new. Where are we going with this? How am I going to take this and grow with it? And that's what she did. And she shares that. And she, she's not afraid of it. She's not embarrassed, having to say, oh, I needed to take a step back. I needed just to take a moment and kind of take stock of what was happening. But she grew with it. She wasn't the same Heidi that joined, X amount of months ago when she did join originally. She didn't just continue to repeat that narrative over. That was her core reason. But now she had a new reason. So she grew with it, and that's how she's helping her team grow. So in the same aspect of have your core narrative and your core story, your core reason of why that should never change. Have that always, because that is essentially who you are and what brought you to us, right? What brought you to this amazing company. That should always be there. But also embrace all of the roller coasters, all of the hills, all of the mountains that not only got you from this place, but now that got you to this place, because now we're here and we're still going. And there's no reason to just chop your story right in half and cut it off and just continue to say the same narrative over and over and over again. When, yeah, your core story is beautiful and it is something that should always be shared, but be sure that you're flowing with your story now and flowing with your narrative. So I just wanted to really just share, that was on my heart. I heard a little bit of what this kind of whole basis was. I got this from my self-development, and it really sparked, that was like self-development like last week. And it really sparked something in me to really just take hold of what was happening in my life and my story, and realize when you truly look back, I hope you guys, I'm going to leave you with like a little homework. When you hop off, I really want you to look at, however, I don't care if you joined yesterday, if you joined a year ago, 2 years ago, I don't care. I want you to take a look at when you joined. Who were you? Who were you when you joined? Realize that reason of why you joined. Try to dig so deep into that emotion of what brought you here, whether that's you were sick and tired, whether that's you were just disgusted with how you felt, whether that was, you wanted to gain weight, you wanted to lose weight, you wanted to just have a business of your own. You didn't even care about the health aspects. You wanted to grow a business that you could call your own so you could quit your job. Wherever that emotion is, break your armor. Break your armor down. Allow yourself to feel that feeling and those vulnerabilities, and reach in with those emotions and see if you can make an amazing vulnerable post. And like I said, I'm not asking you to dig deep and get your darkest secret and blast it on social media. You don't have to. That is your story. You do with whatever you want with your story, with what you want. But what I'm saying is, don't cut yourself off from all emotion to just feel like you're being this like robotic poster or this robotic network marketer, because that's not going to bring connection. That's not going to breed your success of where you truly deserve to be. So I will leave you with that. Heidi, if you have anything else to say, please hop in. But that's my challenge for you guys. If you get anything out of this tonight, maybe you get a little bit deeper in your vulnerability and your feelings, and that could breed beautiful things. When that happens, it's a game changer. So I hope you guys have a great night. If you have any questions, comments, put it in the chat, message me, whatever it might be. But have a great night, and I want to see those posts. Bye, guys.